Okay, welcome, welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started. Coach Kevin Sparks here with you. And first thing I want to do is go ahead and share some things with you with my screen. So let me get into my screen share. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is we have a Facebook group that coincides with our meetup. Okay, has exactly the same name, it just doesn't have a city next to it. And the Facebook group, just like the name of the meetup group, is I Want to Be Really Rich and I Do Not Apologize for It. You can find it at facebook.com/groups/, I Want to Be Really Rich. Or again, you can just start typing in I want to be really rich and I do not apologize for it into the search in Facebook, and it'll pop up for you. And we ask that you come join us. Why would you want to come join the group? Well, one, it's a place outside of Monday through Friday, the 45 minutes we have together, where we can interact with each other. It's also a place where we can put special announcements and things like that, things that are helpful to you. And probably one of the most important things is it's where we go ahead and archive the recordings of what goes on each day. So, for instance, if we're in the process of studying any particular material that I share with you, and let's say it takes a few days to go through the material, sometimes it might just be something for the day, something it might be something for a few days, sometimes it might be something we do for a week or two, just depending what the material is that we're using to learn from and help ourselves. If you are missing a day here or there, it won't be the end of the world because you can go back and review it. Or if you really like a particular meeting that you attended and you want to review it, or you want to go back and find something that was said that you had maybe, it meant something to you and you wanted more clarification or you wanted to hear it again, you can. So again, come join us at our Facebook group. Just look it up, find us. We'll be happy to have you here with us. Okay, next thing I want to share with you is exactly kind of what I was talking about. We are in the process, actually, we'll be finishing this book today. We're in the process of going through some material, a book called The Science of Getting Rich. It was written by a gentleman named Wallace Wattles, and it was originally published in 1910, so a long time ago. So the way he speaks is going to be a little bit different than the way people speak and communicate today, okay? But what I wanted to tell you about this particular book is it's easy to get a hold of if you want a copy of your own. Very easy to find in paperback. Just go to Amazon and get it. Definitely can find it in Kindle too. However, I want to tell you how to get a free copy. That's what I did here. I have it on Kindle and whatnot, but I wanted something I could share with you that you could actually follow along with. So I just went ahead to Google and typed in Science of Getting Rich PDF. Science of Getting Rich PDF, and organically the first result that popped up started with the secret.tv and kept on going. I know that the secret.tv is a website that belongs to Rhonda Byrne. Rhonda Byrne is the creator and producer of both the movie and the book called The Secret. So I figured this would be a good place to go, and she gives it away to you for free. So I went ahead and downloaded it. You can too if you want your own copy, and you can follow along with us. We're going to be starting on page 72 today and finishing it up. And the other thing, if you don't want to do that, you can just see it because it's here on the screen, and that'll be shared with you also. So you can just follow along that way for now. However, I think as we go through some of this today, you'll probably spark something in you that says, hey, I had to go back and read it. And truthfully, 77 pages, it's a pretty short read. If you were to read the book from start to finish, you'd probably finish it in about 2 hours, maybe even less than that. So you could read the whole book. Why did I choose this as a starting point? And what I mean starting point, we've only been doing this meetup now for, what is it? A couple weeks, basically. This might be the 13th or 14th, 15th, I forget the exact number of times we've been together. And I wanted to share this because of the impact that it had in my life. And I want to give you a little history on it so that you know why it might impact your life too. I'll go back a little ways. I already shared with you that Rhonda Byrne, if you've heard of the movie or the book The Secret, again, she's the creator and producer of both. Um, she was given this book by her daughter. I don't know where her daughter got it, but she gave it to her mom during a time when her mom was kind of having some struggle in her life, didn't really understand or know about the law of attraction. Read this book, had such a big aha moment. It changed her finances very quickly. Not just reading the book, she had to apply what she learned. Okay. And she had to reprogram herself subconsciously to accept what she was reading instead of reject it when it comes to money and wealth. But she had a big turnaround really quick, and it was such a huge deal for her. She wanted to share the law of attraction with the world. So she sought out people that understood it and created the book and the movie The Secret, which highlights those people. Um, I actually have been trained and taught and mentored by a few different people, well, lots of people actually, but there's two significant ones that have had the biggest impact on me when it comes to money and acquiring wealth. The first one is a gentleman named Robert Kiyosaki. If you haven't heard of the name Robert Kiyosaki, you may have heard of his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or you may have heard of the game called Cash Flow. Anyhow, I had the opportunity years ago to work directly with Robert and his team. I was actually brought on to consult with them to help them grow their business, and which I did, it was a wonderful experience. I'm glad that I was asked to do that. And in the process of doing so, got to see the insides of their business, both Robert and Sharon Lechter, who was his, at the time, was the co-founder and CEO of his business. Let me see kind of behind the scenes, behind the curtain, like Wizard of Oz. And that definitely had an impact on me on how I saw business, money, investing, and things like that. Another person, though, who impacted me greatly is a gentleman by the name of Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor is someone who he's been in the field of personal development. Started his study when he was 27 years old. He's still around today. He's 87, I believe, 86 or 87 years old. And he's been at this in the personal development field now for 60 years. I'm sure somebody exists, but I don't know that there's anybody much better than Bob Proctor at helping people understand how the laws of the universe function and how the mind works in working with those laws to help people accomplish whatever they want. And I was taught, this goes back years ago. So what happened to me is I met somebody who was a coach and facilitator for Bob Proctor's programs named Leslie Householder, was invited to attend a Science of Getting Rich 3-day seminar weekend. And during that process was obviously the book was shared with me. Of course, over 3 days, more than 77 pages worth of content was shared and taught. And it was a big eye opener for me, and it really changed. This was even after working with Robert Kiyosaki, really changed my outlook about how things happen and how things function, and how it doesn't have to be hard and you don't have to work your rear end off necessarily the way you might be programmed to receive money and wealth into your life. And my income as a result, my monthly income after going to that seminar, what did I do? She gave me, this was Leslie, gave me a self-study course as part of the gift for attending. That was essentially the seminar in a self-study format created by Bob Proctor that had audios, workbook, and everything. So I went and devoured that material. And over the next 2 to 3 months, spent maybe an hour to 3 hours a day, depending on what I was able to make time to do, and basically followed through and did what it said to do, and worked on reprogramming myself to make it a lot easier. And my income jumped nearly it did. It multiplied 10 times what it had been averaging over the past couple of years. So big leap for me. And I figured, you know what? Later on, I actually decided I'm going to hire Bob to be my own personal coach. Not strictly one-on-one. I did it in a group coaching setting, and actually since then been trained to be a coach and facilitator for Bob's programs also. However, at this point, I'm independent. I'm still good friends and close with many of the people in Bob's organization and many of the people who are coaches and facilitators and whatnot. Matter of fact, I still to this day mastermind frequently with some of them. So, but I wanted to share this with you because, again, it had a huge impact on me. It has had a huge impact on some other people that I have very important in my life. Bob Proctor created that seminar that Leslie taught, taught her how to teach it to others. I experienced it, and that was what happened for me. So here's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to hop in and start reading the last bit of this book. I'm going to kind of possibly add some commentary to it if I feel it will be helpful. Also, because some of you are today might be your first day with us, you may not have been with us to, understand what he's been talking about already. I'll either refer you to go back and read some of it, or if I can very quickly get you up to speed, I'll throw in the commentary there that'll help you do that. While I'm doing that, I'm not going to be paying any attention to chat. Okay. Here's what we'll do. I'll do that. What I like to do is typically leave somewhere around 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes or so towards the end of what we're doing, and leave that open to you guys. That way you have plenty of time to share your comments and ask questions. Okay, so if you have comments to make, things that you'd like to share, or questions, that would be the appropriate time to do that. And we always leave time for you to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hop on right now and start sharing this with you guys. And here we go. Again, we're on page, if you chose to go find it and download it, we're on 72 of the PDF. I don't know if that's the page of the book, but it's the page of the PDF. And we're on the chapter that's called Some Cautions and Concluding Observations. Let me get a quick sip of water before I start reading. Okay. Many people will scoff at the idea that there is an exact science of getting rich, holding the impression that the supply of wealth is limited. They will insist that the social and governmental institutions must be changed before even any considerable number of people can acquire a competence. But this is not true. It is true that existing governments keep the masses in poverty, but this is because the masses do not think and act in the certain way. Now, what Wallace Wattles is referring to in the certain way is he's talking about understanding how the laws of the universe function and living in harmony with those laws instead of bumping up against them and hurting yourself against those laws. So for instance, gravity, a small baby, if gravity is a small baby or a toddler or whatever, if they are somehow on the counter, don't really belong there, but let's say they are and you aren't paying attention, and they go crawling off the edge of that, they don't know any better, and they hit the floor, which may not be carpeted, it could be wood, it could be tile, it could be whatever, that child could possibly hit their head and become hurt, right? It really doesn't matter that the child didn't know what the law was of gravity. Not knowing the law of gravity did not save the child from the pain of what happens when you disobey the law. When I say disobey, the law itself, you can't be obedient or disobedient in one sense. The law just is. But the baby did something that the law said not to do if you don't want to get hurt. Okay? We do that to ourselves all the time in life. And we're doing it because we don't understand how things actually truly function, because we weren't taught by our parents, our families, in the school system. Really, in a mass sense, we've been programmed to do things differently than what would actually bring to us the additional income and the wealth that we actually would like to have in our lives. And when we try, but we don't actually follow I say we try to follow the rules of society, but the rules of society tend to break most of the laws, or a lot of the laws, how the universe functions. So we end up bumped and bruised and cut and discouraged and upset and not receiving what we want. This book, if you go back, and again, short enough, I would go read it, I would go get it, I would go find it, and I would go devour it. and work on understanding it. Also, what I do is go to our Facebook group that I just shared with you earlier, join it and listen to the recordings because of the commentary that's there. And also afterwards, the questions and answers and comments that come up. Definitely a helpful way for you to at least develop a little bit better understanding and awareness of what is truly happening. Because if you understand how things work and you understand that, oh, I take a particular action, I get a good result. I take an action in opposition to the laws, I get a bad result. You would quit taking so many actions in opposition to you receiving what you want, and you would probably take many more actions that would actually get you what you want. If the masses begin to move forward, as suggested in this book, neither governments nor industrial systems can check them. All systems must be modified to accommodate the forward movement. If the people have the advancing mind, have the faith that they can become rich, and move forward with the fixed purpose to become rich, nothing can possibly keep them in poverty. Again, all of these things were discussed previously, so and you would understand why. Individuals may enter upon the certain way at any time. So you can start doing things and obey the laws at any time you want, anytime you become aware of them and start applying them, and they'll start working for you. And under any government, and make themselves rich. And when any considerable number of individuals do so under any government, they will cause the system to be so modified as to open the way for others. The more people who get rich on the competitive plane, the worse for others. The more people who get rich on the creative plane, the better for others. What's essentially the difference? Think of the competitive plane as ladder climbing and then trying to get to the top. And then once you get there, tossing the ladder down. Think of the creative plane of saying, hey, I've got a pie or pizza. You decide what you like to eat better. Since we're coming up on Thanksgiving tomorrow, let's say pie. And there's a pie and it's an 8-inch pie, right? Not very big. And you got 8 people that want to eat that pie. You're all only going to kind of get a sliver, but now 2 more guests show up. Oh no, right? How do we get 10 slices out of this 8-inch pie that would satisfy everybody? Well, in the creative plane, you would just increase the size of the pie so that everybody gets a bigger piece. So no, everybody gets exactly the amount they want. There's no limitation in that way. So you either work on the competitive plane, which is to fight for everything you got, or on the creative plane, which is to allow yourself to receive what you want. And in the process, it helps other people get what they want to. The economic salvation of the masses can only be accomplished by getting a large number of people to practice the scientific method set down in this book and become rich. These will show others the way and inspire them for a desire for real life, with the faith that it can be attained and with the purpose to attain it. For the present, however, it is enough to know that neither the government under which you live nor the capitalistic or competitive system of industry can keep you from getting rich. When you enter upon the creative plane of thought, you will rise above all these things and become a citizen of another kingdom. But remember that your thought must be held upon the creative plane. You are never for an instant to be betrayed into regarding the supply as limited or into acting on the moral level of competition. Whenever you do fall into old ways of thought, correct yourself. So in other words, you've studied, you've learned, you really know what to do. You're going to know that you're not doing things in a certain way. You're going to know that your thinking's gotten off track. When that happens, correct yourself instantly. Don't let it go on and on and on and on. You let it go on and on and on and on, you're going to attract things into your life that are going to upset you. Okay? You correct yourself instantly as soon as you're aware of it and go back down the path the way you know you're supposed to, and you won't really wreck the good things that were coming to you and put them on and stop them from happening. But if you keep allowing the old ways of thought to function in you and to have control over your thinking and your feelings, you're going to receive what you don't want. Do it correctly and you'll receive what you do want. Do not spend any time planning as how you will meet possible emergencies in the future, except as the necessary policies may affect your actions today. You are concerned with doing today's work in a perfectly successful manner, and talked about that in a given chapter, and not with emergencies which may arise tomorrow. You can attend to them as they come. Do not concern yourself with questions as how you shall surmount obstacles which may loom on your business horizon, unless you can plainly see your course must be altered today in order to avoid them. In other words, you see something come and do something about it, but don't sit here and pretend in your mind and worry about something that's never happened and may never happen. You're putting energy into something you don't want to manifest and probably will create the manifestation of that thing. If you see something plainly like it says, yeah, of course, do something, okay? Be guided and directed to do something. But if there's not actually something there and it's in your mind right now in your imagination, let it go. No matter how tremendous an obstruction may appear at a distance, you will find that if you go on in the certain way, obeying the laws which bring you what you want, it will disappear as you approach it, or that a way over, through, or around it will appear. No possible combination of circumstances can defeat a man or woman who is proceeding to get rich along strictly scientific lines. No man or woman who obeys the law can fail to get rich, any more than one can multiply 2 by 2 and fail to get 4. Give no anxious thought to possible disasters, obstacles, panics, or unfavorable combinations of circumstances. It is time enough to meet such things when they present themselves before you in the immediate present, and you'll find that every difficulty carries with it the wherewithal for its overcoming. Guard your speech. Never speak of yourself, your affairs, or anything else in a discouraged or discouraging way. Never admit the possibility of failure or speak in a way that infers failure as a possibility. Never speak of the times as being hard or of business conditions as being doubtful. Times may be hard and business may be doubtful for those who are on the competitive plane. Very true. But they can never be so for you. And why is that? You can create what you want and you're above fear. Okay. As long as you can create what you want and you're able to follow the laws, which everyone is able to once they know what they are, become aware of them, and see how they interact with each other, then that's all you've got to do to receive what you want. Obey those laws. You will be guided in what actions to take. You'll receive personal inspiration, revelation, intuition that will guide and direct you to take the right steps so that you can receive what you want. So there will be action involved, but there won't be nearly as much strife, not nearly as much hard work, and probably a lot less time. The other thing I forgot to tell you at the beginning is not only did my income multiply by right about 10 times what it had been, which is significant. I used to work at that time, I was working 50, 60 hours a week. The time worked per week to receive the income that I was receiving went down to between 10 and 20 hours a week. So I was able to increase my income and reduce my hours. Again, able to do that because I became aware of how things work and then worked on reprogramming myself at a subconscious level to accept that as normal for me, to accept that having money and wealth and working part-time to receive it was now the normal thing for me. And once my subconscious mind accepted that, I'm not saying it was instant. I told you it was pretty, it was 1 to 3 hours of pretty deep work for about 2.5, 3 months. But who wouldn't do that for the outcome? When others are having hard times and poor business, you will find your greatest opportunities. Train yourself to think of and to look upon the world as something which is becoming, which is growing, and to regard seeming evil as being only that which is undeveloped. Always speak in terms of advancement. To do otherwise is to deny your faith, and to deny your faith is to lose it. Never allow yourself to feel disappointed. Now, granted, when he's saying not to do these things, every one of us feels some of this at some time. The idea is when it comes, one, It's better if you got a choice, which we always do, to not be, okay? But if we do feel it, okay, feel it for an instant, but don't dwell on it and don't let it drag you down, okay? Feel it for a moment and then change the thought in your mind, which will create a different image for you of yourself and what's going on. Use your imagination to help you create what it is you do want, which is taught in previous chapters how to do that. But again, if we are feeling bad about something, what's happening in our life means that we are in the process of attracting things that don't please us. If we feel good, joyful, happy, positive, we are emanating that kind of vibration. And the only thing that can respond back to us as a result are things that please us. So we're either going to put out feelings because of our thoughts that will create disappointment, or things that will actually please us when they happen to us. It's all our choice, though. You may expect to have a certain thing at a certain time and not get it at that time. And this will appear to you like failure. But if you hold your faith, you will find that the failure is only apparent. Meaning, yep, okay, it looks like it is, but what's going on here? Go on in the certain way. And if you do not receive that thing, you will receive something so much better that you will see that the seeming failure was really a great success. And this has happened to me a bunch of times. I always like to put in when it is something that I'm asking God in the universe to provide for me. And when I'm working on this, I like to add, this or something better. That way, when something happens, potentially, it doesn't always, I usually get what it is when I follow the laws. But if I think I want something and God and the universe have something even better in mind for me, that helps me actually receive the better instead of receiving what I asked for. Crazy enough, we think we know exactly what it is that we would want. So we get upset when things don't happen our way. And sometimes God and the universe say, hey, look, you asked for something. I'm going to do something even better for you. But don't be so stuck on what it is that you want that you won't allow us to give you the better. Just chill out. A student of the science had set his mind on making a certain business combination, which seemed to him at the time to be very desirable. Logically, for him, this is what he wanted, okay? And he worked for some weeks to bring it about. When the crucial time came, the thing failed in a perfectly inexplicable way. In other words, man, he did exactly what he thought he should do, the way it was supposed to be done, to the best probably of his ability to do it. And it looked like it should have totally worked out, but it failed in a perfectly inexplicable way. As if some unseen influence had been working secretly against him. But here was the key, because he had learned how the laws of the universe works. He was not disappointed. On the contrary, he thanked God that his desire had been overruled and went steadily on with a grateful mind. In a few weeks, an opportunity so much better came his way that he would not have made the first deal on any account. And he saw that a mind which knew more than he knew had prevented him from losing the greater good by entangling himself with the lesser. That is the way every seeming failure will work for you if you keep your faith, hold to your purpose, have gratitude, and do every day all that can be done that day, doing each separate act in a successful manner. And this was all described in previous chapters, how that works. When you make a failure, it is because you've not asked for enough. Interesting, huh? When you're doing this correctly, now I can't say, haven't asked if you're not doing it correctly, but if you're following the laws and you're doing things in a certain way, when you make a failure, okay, it's because you've not asked for enough. Again, that's why I like to throw in this or something better. So I'm open to the possibility that maybe I didn't ask for the best that I could receive, and God in the universe can bring something better to me because I'm open to receiving it. and a larger thing than you were seeking will certainly come to you. Remember this. You will not fail because you lack the necessary talent to do what you wish to do. If you go on as I have directed, you will develop all the talent that is necessary to the doing of your work. It is not within the scope of this book to deal with the science of cultivating talent, but it is as certain and simple as the process of getting rich. However, do not hesitate or waver for fear that when you come to any certain place, you will fail for lack of ability. Keep right on, and when you come to that place, the ability will be furnished you. The same source of ability which enabled the untaught Lincoln to do the greatest work in government ever accomplished by a single man is open to you. You may draw upon all the mind there is for wisdom to use in meeting the responsibilities which are laid upon you. Go on in full faith. Study this book, make it your constant companion until you've mastered all the ideas contained in it. While you're getting firmly established in this faith, so while you're starting out with this, because it has not, you haven't mastered it yet, you will do well to give up most recreations and pleasure. Why would you want to do that? And stay away from places where conflicting ideas conflicting with these are advanced in lectures or sermons. Do not read pessimistic or conflicting literature or get into arguments upon the matter. Do very little reading outside of the writers mentioned in the preface of this book, because what you want to do is you want to spend most of your leisure time in contemplating your vision, which this book explains how to create that vision, the correct way to do it, and in cultivating gratitude, and in reading this book. It contains all you need to know of the science of getting rich, and you'll find all the essentials summed up in the following chapter. Summary of the science of getting rich. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought, and man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. In order to do this, man must pass from the competitive to the creative mind. Otherwise, he cannot be in harmony with the formless intelligence, which is always creative and never competitive in spirit. Man may come into full harmony with formless substance by entertaining a lively and sincere gratitude for the blessings it bestows upon him. Gratitude unifies the mind of man with the intelligence of substance, so that man's thoughts are received by the formless. Man can remain upon the creative plane only by uniting himself with the formless intelligence through a deep and continuous feeling of gratitude. Man must form a clear and definite mental image of the things he wishes to have, to do, or to become, and he must hold this mental image in his thoughts, while being deeply grateful to the Supreme that all his desires are granted to him. The man who wishes to get rich must spend his leisure hours in contemplating his vision, and in earnest thanksgiving that the reality is being given to him. Too much stress cannot be laid on the importance of frequent contemplation of the mental image, coupled with unwavering faith and devout gratitude. This is the process by which the impression is given to formless, and the creative forces are set in motion. The creative energy works through the established channels of natural growth and of industrial and social order. All that is included in his mental image will surely be brought to the man who follows the instructions given above, and whose faith does not waver. What he wants will come to him through the ways of established trade and commerce. In other words, God in the formless substance will prompt others to do things that will help you receive what you want, and it will be to their benefit to do what they're asked to do as much as it is to your benefit to do what you are asked to do to receive what it is you want. In order to receive his own when it shall come to him, man must be active, and this activity can only consist in more than filling his present place, which was definitely discussed in depth in previous chapters. He must keep in mind the purpose to get rich through the realization of his mental image, and he must do every day all that can be done that day, taking care to do each act in a successful manner. He must give to every man a use value in excess of the cash value he receives, so that each transaction makes for more life. And he must so hold the advancing thought that the impression of increase will be communicated to all with whom he comes in contact. The men and women who practice the foregoing instructions will certainly get rich, and the riches they receive will be in exact proportion to the definiteness of their vision, the fixity of their purpose, the steadiness of their faith, and the depth of their gratitude. All right. Good to see you guys now. I'm off a screen share. Looks like some more people joined us since we originally got started. Awesome, awesome. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you with us. Super quickly, I'm going to share something with you. I shared it earlier, but I'll do this really quick right now. For those that joined us, but maybe this is your first time with us and you want to know how to get caught up with what we've been doing, I invite you to come find our Facebook group. It's the same name as the meetup. I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. Please come join us. This is where we can interact outside of the 45 minutes or so we have together Monday through Friday. It is also where the recordings of previous times together are going to be archived. And it's a place where special announcements will be and other things that we'll be putting there that are for your benefit. So come find us and join us. This will allow you to get caught up and or review something if you like it. If you like today and you're like, that's awesome, there's some things that were said and shared, and I want to go through it again. Well, typically later today or sometime tomorrow is when you'll find that recording in here, okay? But you gotta be part of the group or you can't access the recording. All right, let me hop out of there. And what do we got for time? Okay, it says we only don't have quite as much time. Here's what I'm going to do to everybody, okay, as far as time goes. If after the 45 minutes, you got to go, you got to go. Nobody's holding you ransom, okay? Nobody's holding you hostage. You got to go, you got to go. And again, the recording will be there. I'm going to stay on a little bit longer on purpose, because once we start sharing comments and questions, usually we have enough people asking things that we will go a little bit longer. But I just want you to know that if you got to go, you got to go. So don't feel bad about that. Okay. So if you have anything that you would like to share, maybe some ahas, maybe your experience utilizing the law of attraction to manifest things in your life, things related to, some successes you've had, or if you've got questions, questions about how you can do better, questions about what we're going over, general questions, I suppose, but related to, money and wealth and receiving those in your life, go ahead and ask those. So just come off mute, and first person comes off, we'll take your question or comment, and then the next person and so forth. If two of you do it at the same time, then we'll try to figure out who spoke first, and then the person who spoke second can go right behind them. So questions or comments, anybody? And I'm not going to be looking in chat for it. You just need to come off mute and shout out to us and let us know what you got.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Kevin, thank you very much for everything.
You're welcome.
And great reminder. And I just have a comment, because I realized that the law of attraction indeed works in many ways, has worked for me many times. But even though we realize that there are actually wonders happening and miracles are happening, and which is probably just physics or the law of attraction, just seeing in action, is not a guarantee that our survival mind or our rational brain will just accept that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Next day, it happens to be gone already. So that's why I want to thank you for the constant reminder. So in my opinion, the same way as we brush our teeth every day, we need to constantly remind us of the law of attraction. We have to really, on a daily basis or more often, but it's very important, the repetition, constant repetition, never stop. And because even if you just leave it for a week or so, it can be gone. So thank you for doing this every day.
Yeah,
And
you're welcome. You're welcome.
very important. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for
Concept
your comments.
repetition.
Uh-huh. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
So I have a question.
Hi,
Now
Francine.
hi. We finished the book and it was very, very helpful and all your comments were extremely helpful. What are we going to be studying next?
I'm going to decide. So tomorrow being Thanksgiving, I probably won't start a new book, okay? But I will come up with something that'll be helpful for everybody, something that'll kind of be able to stand alone on its own. As far as what will be next, I like to, instead of having something set, I like to follow my own personal revelation, inspiration, and intuition. And so sometimes I know way ahead of time, and sometimes I decide 15 minutes before we're on. The good thing about that is I'm always using something though that I'm familiar with and I know the source because it's something I've, utilized in the past or something I'm currently using. So I'm not avoiding you as much as I'm saying I've got so much material that I have not actually decided 100%. I'm thinking I'm going to go towards something though that explains the laws in the sense, because Wallace Wattles didn't go deep enough, in my opinion. He talked about, but he did tell you how to get rich. Okay. He really truly did that. But he didn't explain the other laws that exist. Law of attraction is just one. And really, law of attraction, the better law to call it is the law of vibration. So I've got some materials related to the different laws and how they function and interact with each other. That at this moment, that's what I'm thinking we're going to go towards.
That
And
sounds really good.
yeah, for the next,
I look forward to it.
yeah. So in that, that'll probably take a week or a week and a half or so to do that. That way you have more depth to what's going on and you go, oh, okay. It really is when you understand one law and something kind of starts working for you, but then you get yourself stuck somewhere and you don't realize you're disobeying some other law. It can be frustrating because you're not even aware of what you're doing. So I think that's the direction that I'm feeling I should take this right now. So that's probably what we're going to do, but I'm open if that day, I feel like, oh, this is what we need to do right now. Thank goodness I have the ability to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
Hey, so I've been studying the law of attraction for a few years now.
Awesome.
But yesterday was my first class with you.
Okay.
And so I chimed in a little late. And I've been able to really, attract experiences in my life. And that's kind of been what I've seen as like a direct effect to using the law of attraction.
Okay.
But like money wise, it's like I feel like the only way that I get my income is through my job.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to figure out a way to get more out of side hustles or other experiences through life. I feel like there's a lot of avenues that you can attract wealth into your life.
Yeah.
And so maybe if you had some recommendations on like a good book to get into, or I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I'm gonna speak some things and you tell me if they're true for you or not. Okay.
Okay.
The experience, and so just don't, without going into a ton of depth, share some experiences that have manifested. You don't really need to go into the whole process of how you thought they did, but what are some things that you've been able to do experientially as a result of what's come into your life?
Let's see, deep sea fishing. Wanted to go
Okay.
deep sea fishing and felt that I was, there and doing it and brought that into my life.
Okay, you just said the key right there without going any further.
What's that?
I wanted to go deep sea fishing and I saw myself doing it and I felt myself doing it. And that for you, that's why you've had these, which is cool. Okay. And by the way, so most of us have had experiences. That was something that you were able to internalize. And I bet you you were able to imagine what it would be like before it actually happened. And then when you went and experienced it, it could have been a little different. Okay. It could have been better. It could have been not as exciting. Who cares how, I mean, you care how it turned out. You're smiling, so you enjoyed it. But
Yeah.
my point is, it wasn't difficult for you necessarily. I mean, maybe it was at one point, but at some point it wasn't difficult to imagine doing this thing. You maybe didn't know who was going to invite you to do it. You maybe didn't know how it was going to get paid for. You maybe didn't know where it was going to actually happen and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But when you thought about going deep sea fishing, you were able to immerse yourself from time to time and take it from more than just a daydreaming thing into this is something I see myself actually doing. And you were able to feel that too, right?
Right. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's
So
true.
that is what you did is the same thing you could do with money, but the problem is you're focusing on money and hustles and stuff like that.
Mhm.
What you want to do, and most people won't take the time to do it. Okay. And because it's not what you've been trained to do and not necessarily what's going to come natural. But that's why I wanted to bring up what you just said about the deep sea fishing, so you can correlate, okay, I did that, maybe I could use the same process to do this.
Mhm.
I don't know, give me a dollar amount you think you would like to have, you like to earn, or either monthly or a lump sum or something. What, give me a dollar amount. It doesn't have to be like the last amount you receive in your life, okay?
Yeah.
But you know,
Uh,
how much on an annual basis as of right now do you think
I'd like
you
to get to, yeah, I'd like to get to around 300,000 a year.
okay. And again, it could be arbitrary, but why that number?
Um, I don't know. Just kind of threw it out there.
Yeah, I know.
It seemed reasonable. It wasn't, I feel like if I would have said like $1 million a year, which is, obviously where I want to get eventually, but if I say $1 million a year, I feel like my own subconscious is like, I don't know, it's a lot, and
Okay,
then I like internal doubt kind of kicks in. So
that's all right, because you're focusing on money, and the only thing you know about money so far is having a job.
right.
So yeah, you're subconscious when you do dollars, but you can go live. Have you seen the movie The Secret?
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of people get this a little bit mixed up. They forget this part of it though, but Jack Canfield, so he's the guy that talks about, he and his wife were talking and talked about $100,000. Like, hey, is it possible to make $100,000? And they're like, I don't know. So it wasn't really like they knew how to do it or anything like that. I guess it's possible. Somebody else told me it was. I'm going to believe in that, so I guess so. So they just kind of shot that for a goal of 100,000. And he said, and then what he did is he wrote it, and it doesn't matter. You could do this. It's not that he did this that made it happen. Okay. But it helped him. He took a check, he wrote to himself for $100,000 and posted it on his ceiling above his bed. So it'd be the first thing he'd see every time he woke up.
Yeah.
But what he really said in there, that was the most important thing he said, is he spent time each morning before he got out of bed visualizing living $100,000 lifestyle. So he didn't, and here's what he said too. He said for about, I think he said 90 days. Okay.
Hmm.
Nothing came to me. Didn't really, nothing was all that different. I didn't have any great ideas. I did. But he continued living that lifestyle. And so his subconscious mind started accepting that maybe that lifestyle is okay instead of fighting him on it.
Hmm.
And he didn't focus on trying to figure out how to do it. He just enjoyed living that lifestyle in his mind as if it already was his lifestyle.
Right.
Then the intuition, revelation, inspiration came and said, what if this were it? And then he started going down the path to do that. And then it led to another thing. And he said, ultimately that year, I didn't make $100,000. It was like, I forget if it was 94,000, 96,000, whatever. But,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, it was like, were we upset or anything? It was like, no, this is amazing. So
Right.
the next step was, and that's what they wanted, was $1 million. He didn't say how he did it. Well, he said what he did. They wrote the books, Chicken Soup for the Soul, blah, 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 blah. Well, that sounds awesome. The problem is that makes everybody think that It's the vehicle that you choose, the channel that's going to bring you the money. What
Mhm.
brought him the $100,000 and what brought him the $1 million wasn't that he was a writer. What brought him the money was he lived the lifestyle in his head, and then God utilized his capabilities and lined those up so he could receive the life he wanted. So
Mm.
most of us, especially if, depending on the amount of money we've had in our life, you know, what we've been exposed to in our family and whatnot, if there was more wealth around us, it might have been a little easier. But if you've never had $300,000 before, and the most, and I'm not trying to say how much you've had, right? But let's say the most you've ever had up till now is 50,000. Do you really know what 300,000, what your life could be like with that? And you probably don't.
Mhm.
But you could start imagining it and you could figure that out. But the money is just representative of you becoming more than you are, doing more than you've done so far, and having more than you've had. It's allowing you to do what you want. The money for me, I did not set a goal to multiply my income 10 times. I had a vision of what I wanted to be living like. So I didn't set a money goal. But it naturally, in order to live the lifestyle I wanted, I didn't realize, but I had to make nearly that much money to do it. So I'd been envisioning a lifestyle that was big enough, the money had to come up to match that lifestyle, or
Mhm.
I couldn't have had the lifestyle at the time.
Right.
But
So,
but it's not which side hustle. I could give you a list of hundreds of things you could go do, and
right.
none of them may be the thing that's right for you.
Yeah, I think my focus has just been off. Okay, cool. So I think one other thing I'm going to try doing
Mhm.
after that conversation is maybe go and see how people that make $1 million live,
Uh-huh.
you know, and go and kind of immerse myself in their life because I don't know what people do when you start making $1 million a year. You know, I don't, like I have an idea, but um, I think, you know, like the deep sea fishing thing, I had been deep sea fishing before and I just wanted to see if the law of attraction would work. And a week later, I got 2 phone calls from 2 different friends going to deep sea fishing. They're like, hey, you want to go? I'm like, well, shoot. You know, like if it
There you
works
go.
that easy, I think it works better with my own mind if I know what it is that I'm like, if I've seen it before, you know?
Yeah, it helps. Our imagination will help us, right?
Hmm.
But it's also not staring at things like, you know, if you want a car, don't. I used to do this wrong, but okay, I want a car. I'm going to find a picture, great, my vision board, and I'm going to walk by and look at it, and I'm going to see this car, this house, or whatever. That isn't going to work.
Hmm.
It'll only work if that triggers me to imagine myself having it already. And if I can emotionally bring myself in my imagination to live that life. And when you get good at doing this, the weird thing that's going to happen is I recommend you spend the first 5, 10, 15 minutes of your day before you get out of bed and even before you go to sleep, putting an image of something out there that you want
Hmm.
and living it as if you have it now. What will eventually happen, and you'll know that your subconscious mind is accepting this and that it truly is on its way, it's just a matter of time, is when you come out of that trance, kind of, and the life you come back to, right? This one feels weird to you.
Mm.
All of a sudden, this won't feel real. That will feel like that was real.
Interesting. Okay.
Have you seen the movie Family Man
I don't believe
with
so.
Nicolas Cage?
No, I don't think so.
Well, anyhow, it's one of those things where he's doing really well, living really well, everything else. And then he kind of, whether it's a dream or not, you don't fully know, but he's kind of brought back to a different situation as if his life turned out different,
Hmm.
but without forgetting any of his memories or his skill. So he ends up in a situation, but he comments, he goes he's like, this is not my house.
Yeah.
It's not my car. This is not my fan. This is not, because that, I mean, that seems so phony and fake to him, because what he'd been living is a life with a lot more money and a nicer car and all this other stuff. So you'll get to a point with this where you'll feel like, you know, the house I'm living in or the car I'm driving or the things I'm doing, that's really not me anymore.
Uh-huh.
You just haven't in the flesh experienced the new thing yet. But when you get to where it truly feels like this isn't it, like that, and you go there and you actually feel like that's more real, that's when you know it's been accepted. And the subconscious is definitely on your side helping you get it.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks a
you're
lot.
Uh-huh. Anybody else, any questions or comments?
I think somebody was chiming in through text and their mic wasn't working. I want to check on there.
Okay. Their mic wasn't working. Let's see. I listen to crime stories in my free time. Oh, that's awesome. Have you been ripped off yet? I just kidding. I like not then concentrate on your desires. Yes, but my mic doesn't work. Send it via chat. Okay, Britain or Brit or whoever you are, if you're still there, go ahead and type it really quick. Still here, okay. Yeah, go ahead and ask it, please. Thinking of practical, okay. Are you still typing more, or is that a comment or a question? Okay. Okay. You're still going with this, or is that kind of the end of the question? Okay. All right, cool. So practically, what do you go do? Okay, let me ask you a question. Have you been with us? Is today your first day, or have you been with us several days, or how long have you been following what we're doing? Third time. Okay. So you missed a lot of the action and the steps to take stuff. I'll go ahead and summarize it, though. It's not going to feel really natural right now because it's not the way we were taught in school and by society. But when you get to that point, like I was just talking about with it was Landon, you will find when it becomes real in your mind, you will receive promptings to do things. If you immediately say, I want this life, and then you immediately go to try to figure out how, and it is really different than what you're currently living and what you've experienced in the past, your subconscious mind is just going to sucker punch you. Okay. It's going to beat up on you. But if you chill out about it and you make it clear, then you will be prompted to do something that'll lead you towards receiving it. That's what Jack Canfield did. So go watch the movie The Secret, by the way. And by the way, the movie does leave a lot out. It misses a lot of things. You'll get probably more going with us day to day in understanding this than you could through the movie. But the movie is a really good start. But watch the process, because that's what Jack Canfield did. Is he focused on getting it clear. What most people do is they don't. They say, okay, I decide what I want. And you really haven't delivered it to your subconscious mind correctly to where it's going to help you get it. And then you immediately try and figure out how it's going to happen. And because you've never had it in your life before, you really don't know how it's going to happen. And you try and come up with a plan, and nothing really kind of speaks to you, and or you try to do things and it doesn't work. But you're going to receive those first promptings, and then you're going to start going down that path. Sometimes it's really, really easy, in the sense of I was given a car. Since you've been here 3 times, you've heard that story, how I received a partner of mine actually gave me a car that I had wanted and visualized, and I didn't have to go get the car. It was given to me, and then I just had to pay for gas and maintenance. Okay. But there are other things that I've done and received that I actually had to go pay for, that originally I didn't have the money for. So God and the universe used me receiving more money as the channel. That's what happened when my income multiplied, because the given lifestyle I wanted at the time, it was God and the universe chose money as the way to help me receive it, at least a lot of it. I also got to do things like fly on a private plane and this other stuff. I did not pay for those things. Okay. Kind of like the deep sea fishing that Landon was talking about. So on a practicality thing, we all want to go immediately and take action. And we don't want to think. We don't want to go through the process here. That is action. If you actually scan somebody's brain when they're thinking, not when they're just rehashing material, not when they're just receiving input from the outside, but when they're actually thinking and creating, you are actually doing the very hardest work there is in the world to do, because you're not used to doing it. And so it's kind of a weak muscle. So when you start trying to lift this, which it should be actually light and easy, when you try to do that, you try to avoid it. It's amazing how people, I say, hey, 5, 10, 15 minutes to start, morning and night. How many people flat out won't do it, or they'll only do it for a few days? It actually becomes hard for them because they get distracted, because they don't want to think. Yes, you can ask another question, Britt, or Britton, or Brit and Brit. If you vibrate the law or violate the law? Okay, laws. You don't have to worry about, and when you, so I don't know if you're saying they're discouraging you or they're doing things that you feel are getting in the way of you receiving what you want. Okay. The coolest thing, if you go back again, go read the book. It's short. Go listen to, you could even go to YouTube and type in Science of Getting Rich book. And there's probably 50 people that will read it like an audio book without comments or whatever. And it'll probably take them 2 hours to read it. I've seen different copies. When you understand how this science of getting rich works versus the creative versus the competitive, you never have to worry about what another person does as far as you receiving what it is that you want. Nobody has to take any particular given action for you to receive what you want. In a family setting, if the husband opposes what the wife wants, I mean, it'd be a little hard to type probably what you want to go with that setting, or if that's a for instance. Okay, so for instance, I believe, right? So I want a house. My wife totally doesn't believe. That's not true. Okay, at this point, there was a point where that was true. That's not true in this day for me. But let's say that's the scenario. My wife is the skeptic. She doesn't believe. She doesn't want what it is that I want. Example was a friend wanted a red sports car, but his wife wanted a family SUV. Well, then freaking let them both get what they want. I'm totally serious about that. Well, but it costs money and we only got so much. If you follow the science of getting rich to do this, it doesn't matter. My wife and I both do like different cars. And we both get different cars. She can have the SUV, he can have the sports car if they both want to. If she doesn't believe in it and he does, for him to be happy, he probably should get the sports car though. There's a story in a different book. I don't know if I'll go through this book with us or not. It's a great book, but quick story about this lady that it was told the book that she was kind of upset. She felt her husband was lazy, and she was working her butt off to keep the family, in her mind. She was working her butt off. He was lazy. He worked a little, but he really didn't put full effort. And things seemed to be a financial struggle, and she was always on his case about it. but he just remained kind of how he was. Ultimately, what ended up happening, unfortunately, is they got a divorce. And I'm not telling you this is what's going to happen. I'm just sharing a story that makes this kind of funny in a sense. A little bit after the divorce, something happened in his family, not hers, where he received a big inheritance from an estate. Okay. And now the guy was a millionaire. And then she was ticked, and he had remarried also. Well, now she was ticked off that he had all this money and that he could still do what he wanted and was still lazy, and she still had to work her butt off. The guy's programming was such that he received what he wanted because of what he wanted, not because of how hard he was working. And he was satisfied with certain things in his life earlier on. And once he got away from his wife, he opened up to what he really wanted. And then that manifested in his life. But he still didn't have to go out and work his butt off to receive it. Now you may go, well, I'll never receive an inheritance. I don't have somebody like that. That's, again, you're missing the point if that's what you're thinking. Okay. That's not the point. The point is to allow yourself to create what you want, get it implanted to your subconscious where it's accepted, and then respond to, listen to. When I say listen, it's not always like this audible thing, but you will be prompted to do things that either are pretty normal for you or might be like totally different than what you would normally go do. Might not even be logical to anybody or anybody else. But you will definitely feel like you're supposed to do it through inspiration, revelation, intuition. When that happens, follow it and do it, no matter what it is it asks you to do. As long as it's legal, moral, ethical, do it, even if it seems weird to you. There are so many times where I was prompted to do something that did not make sense at the time I was doing it, but I went ahead and did it, and it led to the next thing, and then boom, 2 or 3 more steps later, I received what I wanted. Or sometimes it was as simple as doing that one step to receive what I wanted. Okay. I don't know if I really was able to 100%, get your questions and everything or whatnot, but hopefully at least that was a little bit helpful for you. If you guys like, I'll stick around for another 5 minutes, unless there's no questions, and then I'll call it a day. But maybe one more question or comment from somebody, if anybody's got anything. You're welcome. All right, we got a bunch of shy people.
Hey, what's going on, Kevin?
Hey.
My name is William.
Hi,
I
William.
signed up for your course. I was able to make 2 out of the, 11 or 12 that you had.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to go back and read the book. I did download it at the site that you provided at the beginning of the
Awesome.
of the meetup. So thank you for that, for going through that. And I just have to say that, man, I'm a huge believer in the law of attraction. I can attest, to that, coming, my life, early in my life, it was just a hot mess. I saw The Secret. I read, a bunch of books, and slowly, just thinking about stuff and going through actions and setting goals and targets and taking the good with the bad, I've been able to, move up a lot. The first part was just relationship. I wanted a meaningful relationship, and I got it. Then I wanted, to secure a career. And even though I'm not working at the moment, I went from making that, 10, 12 bucks an hour working, retail, to getting that job in tech. And that was pretty awesome. And it was a big increase. And I did set it at like the dude who spoke earlier, I think Landon. I set it at a 6-figure mark, right? For 100, I set mine for 100 grand, and I believed it, but I kind of thought it was impossible. And within 2 or 3 years, I was making that. Now I was like, okay, what's next? I set the mark higher, and I'm going through the going through the thick of it right now, right? Because I made the jump from working a 9 to 5 job at a, you know, good, comfortable corporate America, you know, in the Bay Area, to, you know, becoming an entrepreneur. And here is just, it's a whole different beast. I've been lucky and have a lot of successes. But, you know, with COVID and, you know, just timing and a lot of other stuff is just, you know, it's had a negative effect on, not negative, but kind of like I came in with a lot of momentum and excitement. And although that stuff is still there, it's just, you know, like there's a little bit of a gray shadow as well, or a gray cloud as well, right? So I'm kind of just working through that. And do you have any advice on like how to kind of, you know, because the reality of the situation is I'm good. I could be better.
Uh-huh.
A lot of my life has been cleaned up. I cleaned up a lot of my messes.
Yeah,
Just COVID and things I couldn't foresee when I, you
sure.
know, decided to start my business have created another mess or two. But
Okay. Okay. So I can tell you that great job, by the way. Terrific. Okay. And the people you've associated with probably up to this point have gotten to that 6-figure level also, because that's where you were hanging out at whatever job you had, right? But a lot of those folks probably haven't wanted to move forward as much as you did, because you can, well, actually 6 figures in the Bay Area is low 6 figures
low
is
income.
like everybody else making 30, 40 grand a year, right?
Here's the thing.
But so it's all relative to where you live. So I just in the home costs alone that you deal with, right? Um, but I would tell you this: there comes a point for everybody, me included, where you say, "Hey, you know what? I know I'm capable of being a pro, so to speak, but every pro needs a pro level coach to help them do that." There really does come a point where you go, "Okay, somebody that can see my blind spots as I'm traversing through this." I'm going to share something. This was really cool because I spoke to someone I've one-on-one coached. I talked to him yesterday, and I was pretty excited. So been coaching him for right about just over a year. Originally coached him for 6 months. He had an income goal, and at that point, the most he'd ever made in a year was 40 grand. He went on above and beyond that to where he's at about 14,000 or so a month. So that's what he accomplished within his first 6 months. Then he decided he wanted a relationship. He's in his mid 30s and wanted a real relationship. And so I'm like, well, I'm not really, that's not usually what I focus on at work when I utilize law of attraction, because my specialty is money and wealth. But I'm like, the process is the same. He's like, look, Kevin, you know me pretty well now. We've worked together for this amount of time, and you seem to know what I should or shouldn't need to do, even in other areas. I want to continue to hire you as my coach. This is the path I want to go down. I want to be able to talk money, finances, and stuff too, but this is really what would make me happy. So now it's been about 6 months, and he told me that yesterday that he's getting married. Yeah. So, but what he basically said was, look, and he had some times of successes in his life and whatnot, but it was just that stuck thing. If you guys have been screwing around with the law of attraction I mean, it's there, right? But trying to figure this out for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whenever The Secret came out is when most of you heard about it. Okay. And that was back in 2006 when that came out. But if you've been messing with this for 5 plus 10 years or whatever, and you want to get over the hump, let someone like myself possibly be your guide through that. Because the one thing that I've found is every single person that I've helped, at least within 12 to 24 months, whatever their current income was, they ended up 10xing that.
Nice.
Some of them make more than I do. Sharon Lechter and Robert Kiyosaki hired me to help them do some things. They're way beyond what I was at the time. It's just certain skill sets that people have, right? Tiger Woods is a better golfer, I promise, than his coach. Okay. But I've done all right. Okay. Most of you guys would be like, I would like that. Okay. And I'm still growing, and I have coaches too.
You hit the nail on the head. back when, you know, I mentioned my life was a mess, it was, so were my associations. So as hard as it was, you know, I had to kind of, you know, cut off a lot of ties with a lot of people and begin over. And then when I set my goal, somehow, like, you know, I started hanging out around the places that the people I wanted to have, you know, their level of success. I started hanging around there, and, you know, next you know, I'm in the herd, right? I'm in the group. And it's been difficult again because now I had to kind of cut ties again because some people, you know, were happy. I guess the perfect example is like, you know, drinking beer and watching the football games on the weekend. But I'm like, oh man, there's more out there, you know, I know there is. So I did incorporate, I started a business, and now I've kind of worked myself in the right groups. It's just I have that embarrassment because a lot of those people in those right groups, you know, they already have the level of success that I want. And then, you know, they talk about their stuff and I'm just like, oh shit, I don't have that, you know, and I want it. So I know I'm kind of on the right path, but I guess I'm kind of just need like a little bit of push and motivation, just like anyone.
Yeah, when I had that opportunity with Robert and Sharon, I spent more time with Sharon Lechter. Whether you know who she is or not, after she was the original CEO of Robert's company, she was the co-author of all of his books, Robert Kiyosaki. So when I say co-author, what does that really mean?
Is that the Rich Dad Poor Dad dude or the
Yeah,
Apple?
yeah, the Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay, I know the two, like, they're very similar, and I always had them confused. I know one of them wrote the book, another guy was with Apple, with Steve Jobs, and
Yeah, Wozniak. But getting back to this, so Sharon wrote the book. Okay, she took his experience and turned it into Rich Dad Poor Dad, and she also created, basically she was the foundation of his company. Robert was the face and she was the engine. And
She was
sorry, what's that, Lillian?
I was saying, okay, so she was the brains to the business, the growth.
You could look at it that way, right? However, and I would agree in a lot of sense, yes. But interestingly enough, Sharon couldn't have done what Robert did without Robert, and Robert couldn't have done what Sharon did without Sharon. So it was a good marriage for them at the time, business wise. They split up at one point, and now Sharon actually does things with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, which is Napoleon Hill's the person who wrote Think and Grow Rich. But anyhow, Sharon, this was interesting. So talking to what you were talking about, William, Sharon had some cool opportunity, or I had some cool opportunities where I felt, you know, could have felt embarrassed too. But I used to hear, hey, you know, take a millionaire to lunch, right? Pick their brain, see if they'll mentor you, which is really kind of funny because what do you have to offer that person, right? So most people won't bother to do it. But the interesting thing was I was in a situation where once a month or more frequently, Sharon would call me up and take me to lunch. And her net worth at the time had to be at least, geez, I don't know. It felt like a million times what mine was. Okay. But, you know, we got together and met, but I was actually helpful to her. That's why she kept wanting to do that. And of course, it got me around her, and it was great too. So what I would say is, if you have the in with the herd and they invite you to go do something, you know, go do it. Unless it's, you know, against any of your ethics or something, which most people aren't going to, you know, that's not how most people are. As long as it's legal, moral, ethical, and they want to show you what's going on or share with you their life, go ahead and do it. They might look at you as someone that's maybe a little bit like themselves or like they were. And really what happens is, as people become more and more successful, they kind of want to pass on their legacy in a way through helping another person get their aha moment and figure it out. So if you get invited to the herd and it's the one that's closer to where you want to be, but you feel like the brokest person in the herd, that's how I felt when Robert first came to me. I remember he asked me if I would come to a partners meeting. I didn't really even fully know what that meant at the time. And I was at this round table not round, this oval table, right? The big conference table. And there were 15, 20 people there. They were his partners, business partners from throughout the world. They say, hey, here's my UK team. Here's my Singapore team. Here's my this, that. Everybody's introducing. And I was the only guy that was at the table that wasn't some kind of multi-gazillionaire. It felt really weird at the time. but they spent an entire day picking my brain about something that I understood better than they did. So there's ways to offer value to people in that scenario. I recommend, that you reach out to me if you want to. You don't have to. If this resonates with you, let's have a conversation about working together and help you get to that next spot that you want to get to. I'm 100% sure that I can do that because I've done it for so many people. This isn't like a brand new thing for me. I'm really good at helping people figure out where their blind spots are and seeing past those. And as long as, like Sharon Lecter, all she had to do was have lunch with me once a month, and she'd come back a month later and like 90% of the things we talked about, she'd already done, and would come back and tell me what happened as a result. And she wasn't telling me she was taking me to lunch to pick my brain and to have me do that. But just in our conversation with each other, she was taking notes, and she'd come back and go, I did this, this, and this. And man, wow, look what happened. I was like, wow, that felt really good to me, because I'm like, I'm nowhere near your status. And yet something I'm doing is very helpful. So if you want to reach out, my email is super easy. It's Coach Kevin Sparks. Coach Kevin Sparks at Gmail. And we could have a conversation about that. If none of you want to do that, that's okay too. I'm still going to be here Monday through Friday, for our 45 minutes plus each day. So
Yeah, I'll definitely send you an email, and just get a conversation going. See what's up.
sounds good, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna time off. It was great being talking to you and seeing everybody else. Thanks, guys.
All right. And I'm going to time off also. Everybody have an amazing Thanksgiving. Hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow. It might be a little bit light. Hey, Lillian, I see your face. Good to see you again. Did you get the email I sent you?
I haven't checked emails yet.
Check email, check Meetup. I sent you something cool yesterday.
Oh, okay. Okay, I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.